This is your Tuesday Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand. How's everybody doing today? Got some glorious sunshine. Lots to talk about as well, as we often do here. I'll have Cam Bynum, fourth-round draft pick of the Vikings earlier this year. Really enjoyed having a conversation with him the other day. He's a converted safety, played cornerback at Cal. Saw in his room, did the Zoom with him recently. In his room, he has a whiteboard for diagramming plays. This is a guy who's a student of the game, and I think you're going to enjoy the conversation I had with him. Also talked to Bob Timmons from our outdoors staff about trying to go down the Mississippi River in a canoe as fast as possible. It's been done a lot of different times, but there are two competing forces on the water. One just finished up, another one is still out there. Kind of a fun tale of I don't know if it's a rivalry so much as it is just two groups trying to do it as fast as they can and get into the record book. But first, what did I miss? Not much in terms of live action on Monday, which maybe was a little bit was good. We could use a break from the games sometime. So instead, I asked you guys, because Monday's show was pretty negative, talked a lot about the losing that had been going on with the Twins and Minnesota United. Asked you guys what are some things you are looking forward to or that you are enjoying right now in Minnesota sports. And here are the top 5 that I saw you come up with on Twitter. Number 1, not in particular order either, by the way. Number 1, Lynx season. 2 different people said Lynx season coming up is Mark said Lynx season starts Friday. He's looking forward to that. Allie says Nafisa Collier's upcoming season is going to be one to remember. I know it. Sure could be. She was number 5, I saw, in ESPN's power rankings of players going into the year. Sylvia Fowles also on the list. This could be a really good Lynx team, you guys. Open on Friday at home. Should be fun to see where they take this season. So definitely something to look forward to, as Mark and Allie are. Peter says Vikings schedule release. I didn't even realize it. The NFL schedule comes out tomorrow, Wednesday, full schedule. Now, we've kind of known the opponents and home and away for quite some time now, just because of the formula the NFL uses. But yeah, it'll be kind of fun to see. It's always fun to see the order that they put these teams in, and just, when do they play? It helps you go through the season and figure out, okay, how do I think this season's going to go? If you see like a whole bunch of tough games in a row, you're like, I don't feel as good about it. If you see the schedule breaking in a certain way that looks more favorable, you start to get more optimistic. So I get it. I'm on board with that. Looking forward to that as well. Joran says, looking forward to Grandma's Marathon is on with less COVID restrictions, most likely. Hey, that's a good thing, right? Race is typically in June, so a month from now. I've run it a couple times. I'm not really in my best marathon shape right now. I've still been running quite a bit, but more of the 4 to 5 mile range, not the 26 mile range. But anybody who's out there training for that would be great news. Hope you get a fun, normal-ish experience this year with Grandma's Marathon. DB simply tweeted a GIF of Anthony Edwards. Yeah, he's someone to look forward to for sure. Having a really nice second half, in particular, of his rookie season with the Timberwolves. Wolves play tonight, by the way, in Detroit, a game with big lottery implications. You saw what happened when the Wolves and Orlando played the other night. The Wolves routed Orlando. We'll see if the same thing happens with the Pistons, who have been giving a little bit better effort, but the Wolves, of all the teams that are headed for the lottery, have been the team that is most intent on winning. We'll see if that continues on Tuesday night. And the last thing that most of you, I'd say like half of you who responded to this, or maybe close to that, mentioned the Wild and the impending playoff run. Playoffs should start in just a matter of days here. Don't know yet who the Wild's going to play. It looks more and more likely like it's going to be the Wild in the 3 seed because Colorado won against Vegas 2-1 in regulation Monday night. That means that Colorado actually controls its own destiny now. If Colorado wins its final 2 games, no matter what Vegas does, because Vegas only has 1 game left and Colorado is 2 points behind and has the tiebreaker advantage, that means Colorado would win the division and the Wild would play Vegas. So still have to see who the Wild ends up playing. Almost assured, though, that the Wild are going to be in that number 3 spot. What would have to happen for that to be not the case is the Wild would have to win its final 2 games and Colorado would have to lose its final 2 games in regulation. So not looking likely. Looks like the Wild's going to be the 3 seed, but could be either Colorado or Vegas. And we've seen definitely the Vegas matchup being more favorable this year. But regardless, lots to look forward to with that, especially as Chicken Finger 69 says, the only correct answer is the Wild and Kirill, my tiny, adorable baby snow leopard. Anyone who answers anything different is lying to you and, more importantly, to themselves.
I'm Nyla Jean Myers, Senior Assistant Sports Editor at the Star Tribune. Thank you for listening to Strip Sports Daily Delivery. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast and our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Happy to be joined right now on Daily Delivery by Cam Bynum, fourth-round pick by the Vikings out of Cal. Cam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Not as excited as you were when you got drafted, I think. I think a lot of us have seen the video by now where you come running out of, I don't know if it was a house, a cabin where you were. You come running out, you grab a Vikings. I don't know if it's a flag, a cape, what it is. You grab it. You go kind of parading through a whole bunch of people, and then you do a flip into a lake. Where did you get that idea, and how much fun was that?
I kind of just thought of that idea on the fly right after I got drafted. So it's something I knew I wanted to do, is to do a flip in the lake. So once we were like, okay, how are you going to do this though? I was like, I need it on tape. So I was like, okay. So we bought all the flags for every single team and hung them for decorations. Cause people do the hat thing. I was like, okay, I want to do a little bigger. That's my thing. When I do stuff, I like to do it big. So we rented a cabin out off a lake and probably an hour and a half away from my house down here in SoCal. And we hung up all the flags and decoration along the balcony. And then as soon as I got picked, got done with my interviews, ran out there, just had my speaker playing. They didn't know I had the speaker. Went up there, got it on tape, threw the speaker to somebody, went ripped the flag off the thing as the decoration, and just had everybody go down there and make a tunnel for me while I go do backflips. So it was crazy excitement, and that's exactly how I felt. And I knew I wanted to do it big somehow with my celebration, and that's what came to my head right then and there.
The celebration is one thing, but I mean, when you hear your name called, I mean, you had real tears, right? You were like, this is the culmination of a dream for anybody who gets drafted. But maybe just walk me through the moment you find out, okay, I expect to be drafted, but now it's real. What was that moment like?
It was crazy, especially going day 3. You're sitting by your phone the first 2 days, just waiting for that phone call. I told my agent, don't tell me where I'm going. I didn't look at any mock drafts because I didn't want any expectations, or didn't want anybody to expect something and it not get it and kill the joy. So I just wanted to be happy wherever I went. So obviously day 3 is in the morning. So we're all eating breakfast, have a lot of family, friends, teammates that came up to the cabin with us. So we're all eating breakfast. My phone starts ringing. And as soon as I saw the Minnesota number on, I started getting emotional. Could barely even finish the call. And even when I was on the phone, I was like, yeah, I didn't hear a word you just said, but I get whatever you need done. You want to play safety? I'm playing safety. Let's get it. So it was just a crazy amount of emotion, just knowing that I put in years of work for this. And it's something I had to work for. I was always the best kid growing up. I was at a point I was 5th string on JV my sophomore year. And that's when a lot of my friends and people at my level that are getting drafted, they were balling out, having offers sophomore year. So me, I had to work to catch up and get ahead. So I was just super thankful just for everything and everybody that put work into me at that time.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, was kind of like, just tell me a little bit more about your story. I mean, that sounds like it's, you had to work to get to where you are. 5th string JV sophomore year doesn't sound like you said, the path to the NFL. How did you persevere? What gave you that kind of, what if it's an edge, whether it's a mentality to think, okay, I can be more than that?
First of all, my faith in God, just knowing that I'll be good regardless. And then once I put that faith to work and knowing that, okay, I'm not going to get somewhere without putting the work in. And I've always had a crazy work ethic, but at that point when I knew, okay, I've been good in youth football, get to high school, talent caught up to me, and now everybody's good and people were better than me at the point. I knew I loved football, so okay, so how am I going to get out this hole? So I found a coach that just taught me technique, not the coach that has you just doing all the busy work, doing all the cool stuff for Instagram. Coach that really taught me how to play DB, how to be a technician at it. And we went 5 a.m. before school every single day so I could squeeze in an extra hour of workouts. We'd go do the regular workouts at school and then right back at the facility right after school and after practice. So I was putting in 3-4 workouts a day just to get even with people, and did that through my entire high school career from after sophomore season and then through to when I left to college, and just kept that and was able to just separate. And that's one thing that's always got me to where I've been. It's just the amount of work I put in, something I keep doing. So I kind of just described me as a person, just the crazy amount of work, the technician aspect of my game, and just the detail and willingness I am to just put it in.
Well, that'll serve you well. I mean, you played 40 some games at Cal. That was a corner though. Now that you're moving to, sounds like they want you to move to safety. That was something, probably a lot of teams had probably talked to you about even pre-draft. The NFL gets this idea that if you don't run like slightly faster, you got to be a safety now instead of a corner. How will you put that kind of mentality to work? Being a 4th round pick, which gives you some equity, but doesn't make you an automatic, not going to be like a 1st rounder where you got this automatic kind of assumptions of playing time come in. How do you earn that again with the Vikings now and being at a different position, presumably?
I think just basically using the same blueprint of how I got out of my whole sophomore year, putting that same amount of work in, but now just a different amount of detailed work. So through college, I always made an effort. I'm playing corner, but I need to know every position on the defense. So I made an effort to learn our linebacker responsibilities, what the D-line does and their run fits, and how that affects me as a corner and as a safety too, if I was ever to play safety. So it's something I know already. So it's just a matter of reps, and I'm excited to finally get those reps at it. Started doing the reps at the Senior Bowl, but now once I'm able to practice, and now I don't have school, I don't have anything else to worry about with football. So I expect myself by week 1 to be able to have a pretty good understanding of the entire playbook, whatever they expose to me at the time. And just because I know I'm going to put the work in and be able to come out there, and I expect to be the best once I get out there. And that's the expectation I have of myself, be the best at whatever I do. So that's the same approach I'm taking to me learning safety. It's a whole new craft I get to learn. It's something I've learned before, and now I just want to be as great as possible at it.
Had you had much conversation with the Vikings before you got drafted, like pre-draft process?
Yeah, I would say I made a list of 3 teams that, okay, I suspect these teams because I've met with them the most. I had like 3 or 4 interviews with them, and they're on the list along with a couple other teams that kind of were on the high list of, okay, they might actually want me, and they might not just be blowing my head up saying, oh, this is a great interview. We love you, Cam. But they actually put in the effort, called me multiple times, and met with the special teams coach too. That's what stood out to me, and did an install interview for the special team. So that was something, only one other team in the league did that. So that set them apart and let me suspect them a little.
Now, speaking of install, speaking of, learning the playbook, people at home listening can't see this, but we're doing this on Zoom. I can see in your background, you've got a whiteboard in your room with little magnets on it. Like you're drawing up plays, you're diagramming defense in your spare time. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much I'm a nerd straight up with everything I do. I don't play video games. So like fun stuff I do is I go to the field, go do footwork. Fun stuff I do is have my teammates over, and we use this whiteboard and draw formations and basically interview each other. That's something I've been doing my whole time in college with our secondary. And we had a fat whiteboard in my living room in my apartment back in college, and I brought it right back home with me. And like when I get bored, or even like every day, I come up, draw a new formation and explain it and teach it to myself, or I have my little brother in here teaching it to him, or I'll film a video. Just let me be able to actually have to teach it, so I know it well enough. So that's something I do. I'm a learner. I love learning. I hate wasting my time. So this is something I can pass my time being productive.
Well, where's that come from? You mentioned your faith before, but maybe parents, other siblings. Where do you kind of get this work ethic that, a lot of people have a good work ethic, but this seems at another level?
I would say my parents and Kobe Bryant. Kobe's like probably he's my biggest inspiration, athlete of all time. And I've been studying him super closely since 6th grade. So that's kind of tried to mimic every single thing he done in his career, and try and do that as far as the extra work, as far as his approach to the game. And then just seeing my parents work as hard as they do, both of them having jobs. My mom, stay-at-home mom for a while, but she would volunteer in every single one of our classrooms. There's 5 kids. And she'd be just busy, my dad, with a full-time job, and they both come home not tired, still have time to take us to go work out or take us to do whatever we wanted to do on our fun spare time, and act like they're not tired after working a full day. And I just noticed that after a while. I was like, wow, you guys are super hard workers. So that and Kobe, it just everything, the examples in my life that I looked up to were crazy workers. So that's something I always wanted to mimic myself after.
I was going to ask you about Kobe because I saw, you have his pictures, your Twitter background, you got Mamba mentality in your Twitter profile. But obviously, like, I'm up here in Minnesota. You're from Southern California. I mean, is that
Yep.
so?
Yep,
I mean,
California my whole life.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've, obviously the tragedy a little over a year ago, we felt that everywhere worldwide. How much more did you particularly feel it where you were, and just, with how much you look up to Kobe Bryant?
It felt crazy, honestly. That's like, especially coming from Southern California, being a crazy Laker fan, that's like our hero. So just the whole energy around here just felt deflated for a while. And even I was in the Bay Area up north when it happened, because I was at school, but just still like seeing your family, like it affected everybody, and it's crazy. But it brought good out of everybody, as crazy as it sounds. It made people start working a little different, I noticed. And you see how much, like, how it affects people and how big of an impact he had, and especially on me. That's something I wanted to meet him and be mentored by him, just because I've been trying to copy him my whole life. But I'm just glad how much he left behind for us to be able to like see, and just the example that he set. So I'm just super glad for that.
Yeah, it's a great attitude to have. Last thing for you, really enjoying this conversation with you, Cam. What's next? I'm sure there's stuff coming up pretty quick here. I'm sure life as a NFL rookie comes at you pretty fast, but what are next steps and in goals as you go from drafted to now, getting on the field at some point here?
Yep. So draft week or draft day was last week. May 12th coming up in a couple of days now. May 12th, we get shipped out there, and that's when we start I know it's like orientation first couple of days, and then probably a couple of days after that, we start our rookie mini camp for practice and all the learning, all the fun stuff. So I'm just super excited for that. I know it's going to be busy, but that's the type of busy I like, learning and playing football and be able to train without any other distractions, especially being in a new state. Now I don't have anybody to bother me. I don't have any out distractions, no friends or anything. So I can go straight to football, learn, and just soak it up from the coaches, from other vets, and just be able to compete and try and be the best player I can be.
We got a lot of lakes for you to jump into up here. Let's land at 10,000 lakes. Go get them, right?
Find a random friend with a boat and like, let me hop on.
There you go. Well, good luck when you get up here. Best of luck in the 2021 season and beyond. Really enjoyed chatting with you here on Daily Delivery today. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Really enjoyed getting to know Cam Bynum a little bit better. And you heard him mention special teams. I think that could be a spot that he contributes right away. That's a lot of times where young players make their mark. But anytime someone's willing to work that hard, put in the time, you're going to find, and you get the talent, you're going to find a roster spot in the NFL. And I think he's going to end up doing some good things here for the Vikings. Happy to be joined on Daily Delivery right now by Bob Timmons. Does a great job writing about the outdoors. Bob, this is an interesting story. Two groups trying to canoe down the Mississippi River as fast as possible. One of them already finished, it sounds like, on Monday. Another group still out on the water. Give me the background on all this, and just, the desire to want to do this, how far it is, how fast you have to go, things like that, and just, how these two groups are connected in some way too.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Good to be on. This is any sort of thing wrapped around, a sort of Guinness record, is going to get people interested, the classic human interest story. And last week I wrote about a group led by a Minneapolis guy named Scott Miller, who has a long history of long distance paddling. The Strib had written about Scott back in 2005 when he went to Hudson Bay with some friends. I sound like it's a little outing, paddling to Hudson Bay from the cities, working their way there. But anyway, I connected with Miller, and he's got a group of three others. They're in a 23-foot Winona canoe, left Tuesday morning from the Itasca headwaters, 2,300 miles from northern Minnesota to the Gulf River Delta of the Gulf of Mexico. If you're able to make it there, and they're attempting a speed record. So right now, those guys, Scott Miller and his group, are like in Northeast Iowa, and they're going 24/7. in sort of 6-hour increments, taking breaks at boat ramps here and there, eating on the water. They have a big support group. They have 10 people following them on shore. And they, once they get south of St. Paul over this last weekend, now they have support boats in the water with them, helping call out, do marine radio connections to barge traffic and commercial boat traffic. Yeah, it's this big flotilla,
it's kind of like a marathon. It's kind of like marathon running or ultra distance running, though. You got a support team or, like these relay races you see. So it makes sense to me.
Yes. And what's been interesting with the story too is clearly how this has evolved. I mean, the people who are attempting this, even this guy, KJ Mahone, who finished this morning with his group, when he did it in 1980, they might have had some friends in a van following them for, they likely didn't have water support and all these sorts of things. But anyway, so did the story on Scott Miller, and certainly in the background and context of other Minnesotans, canoe mad Minnesotans who attempted something like this, KJ's name came up. Well, Miller never mentioned that KJ was out already on the water with a team. I was unaware. This isn't some sort of thing I sort of keep my eye on.
You're not finely attuned to all the people trying to go really fast on canoes down the Mississippi River. But this is like 40 years later that he's doing this, right?
Yeah. Well, KJ, as it turns out, KJ Mahone had attempted. There's been several failed attempts since 2003. The mark they're all trying to break, and it appears that KJ and his team have broken, was set in 2003, 18 days, 4 hours, 51 minutes to paddle the length of the Mississippi. KJ and his group finished this morning in 17 days, 20 hours. So 8 hours, broke the record by 8 hours.
Finished Monday morning. That's like more than 100 miles a day.
Yeah, they're moving at 5 miles an hour, give or take, and they're not stopping, and there's a whole dance going on in the canoe of 3 people paddling while one sleeps, if they're even sleeping. Certainly you can control so many things. You've got your support team, and a lot of these long distance paddlers do training, like the Scott Miller and company did 2-day training trips with their team, so they got used to, as best as you can, get acclimated to the mad sort of crazy intensity of that. Like you're saying, Mike, like a marathon, just being out there, going. But to do that then for like 17 days straight has to be an entirely another thing, right? I mean, it
does. Well, and I didn't even realize this was a thing. So I'm fascinated by just the idea of not only, just the concept that there's people that are trying this, but there were at a point there was 2 boats out on the water. Like it's almost like they weren't like chasing them technically, but it's almost like they were 2 boats trying this at the same time. Is this a good time of year to do it? Is this why right now do you think that there was these 2 pretty significant attempts, including that we're writing about?
Yeah, good question. And just to come back to a point I had started to talk about, this community of paddlers, the same way some of these niche sports, everyone knows everyone by and by. And Miller and Mahone were going to do a paddle together. They were going to attempt the speed record in 2020, but it was spiked by COVID. So clearly, both of these guys have been planning this. And at one point, they were going to do it together and separated. And now they're both on the river at this time of year. A big thing about it is weather and water levels. And so depending on snowpack and things and coming into spring, it can be a good time to go for it. If what appears to have happened with Mahone is they had really good weather on some of the big water. Because once you get into south of St. Louis, it's not like, what we're used to as Minnesotans seeing the Mississippi up here. You're talking about, the river being dozens of miles wide. It's almost like wilderness in some of the spots from what people have told me and what I've read and things, just about the true nature of the river and how it changes so much. But sounds like Mahone, they had high water levels, so they had a nice push there. They clearly were relentless. They held up all the grueling, crazy, sleepless nights, I'm sure. And I've talked to current record, the previous record holder, a guy named Clark Ide, who now lives in Alabama. And he and I have been in touch this morning, in fact. And he talked a lot about just the intensity of the sitting, the paddling, what it does to your hand, your hands. It just, there's so many things going on there. But it sounds like Mahone and their group had good weather, a good water flow levels, high water when they needed high water, and all that kind of thing. So this is the time of year, if you're going to go for it, this is when to do it.
I feel like they missed an opportunity here, because as compelling as this story is, how great would it have been if they would have left at exactly the same time? And this was a true
right.
And this was a true race. Like I want to
Right.
see, that if there are 10 boats that want to do this, I want to see all 10 of them leave at the same time, or even spread out by like half an hour, so that they're not bumping into each other. Right. Okay. So, but I want,
Right.
I want to see a true race. That would really, as interested as I am right now, that would really, I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah. That's a great point. And you know what? For all I know, I haven't dug deep into this history, but I'm sure that has happened. There's all sorts of, some of these, both the Mahone team and the Miller team have members. They're not all Minnesotans. So, Mahone went out and got these two hotshots from Florida. One guy's in his 60s, the other's in his 40s, who have probably shelves stacked with hardware of all these races they've won. And so, yeah, to put them all together, you've got the elite, sort of the
canoe dream
long
team.
Distance paddling.
It's the canoe dream team.
Yeah.
It's wow. This is just, so when the first group finished Monday morning, when does the second group project to finish? I know you said they're near Iowa right now. If they started last week, they probably got about 10, 11 days left in their best case scenario.
Yeah. So they started May 4th, crack of dawn kind of thing. And so that would put them, if they're going to get the record, it's going to be sometime around May 21st or 22nd, if I've got my math right.
Yeah, that looks about right.
So they've got a long way to go. I mean, they were in Winona yesterday, and I've been, I have hyperlinks in the stories. You can track them. They both have Garmin's. You can track their every move. Like you're saying, Mike, when they came out of Itasca, you've got, parts of the Mississippi up there. You're on lakes, and then you're back on the river the same way, and you've got areas where, oh my gosh, we're scraping bottom here. You know what I mean? And now, so it's a real, Minnesota is a very different part of it. You actually, the Mississippi is very different in Minnesota than it is in, in other states, and as you get downriver. So they're having very different experience as they go.
Well, read Bob's coverage, Star Tribune, startribune.com. I'm sure it'll be ongoing. Like you said, there's links to find out where these guys are exactly on the river. And just the added layer of there being two teams out there. I'm very much interested in this story now, and hope you guys are too. Bob, any final words of wisdom on this?
The former record holder in 2003, a guy named Clark Ide, again, who I referenced, has talked about the how the Guinness, Guinness has its standards and so forth. But he said, look at, we went out in 2003 and had a few support people, and now you've got teams of boats and people on the ground with campers, and it's just, yeah, sure, it's a record, but it's sort of a record without rules. And so it makes it even more fun in some regard, to see, because a 6-person team could go out tomorrow, and they'd have a legit shot too. It doesn't matter if it's 2, 4, 6. So, it adds a little, you could throw a dog in there. Who knows?
Why not? Just do it all.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really fun story. Read it on startribune.com and in the Star Tribune, and we'll follow up on this later, Bob. Okay.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks.
Really quick, let's end with the cooler. Booth Gotch, another Gophers transfer. That's 10 Gophers who are expected to be in the portal and transferring or leaving. Only one player from last year's team will be on Ben Johnson's squad this year. That's expected to be Isaiah Enan. And who knows, maybe he'll end up going as well. 10 out. Johnson's supposed to get a bunch of players in, but not as many in as out. 6 in so far. Gotch is supposed to be the 10th out, according to Marcus Fuller's story, so going to be in a completely different team. We thought maybe it would be a little bit different or, significantly different. This is almost entirely different, and maybe that's not a bad thing based on how last year went, but boy, it's going to be hard at the outset, at least, as they try to gain some continuity and some wins. That'll do it for today. Thanks for joining Daily Delivery. Subscribe to this podcast. Please write a review. Read Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, and we'll do this again on Wednesday.